Let's try that one more time. Good evening, good evening. I am live on YouTube, live on X. We're back. This is the Swancentric Talks Live podcast with Swany T and Mike B. I am your host, Mike B. Swany T has the night off, but I am grateful to be here serving our online audience. And it's been a while since we have been online. So before we get started, let me just do a couple of housekeeping checks real quick. Okay, good deal. I can hear myself online on X, so I'm hoping that I am on YouTube. My lighting probably could be a lot better, but this is a very impromptu show. It's a show that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. And I was recently inspired by my partner Swanny T, and we watched a movie um, together last week, and the title of that movie was Somewhere in Time. It's a 1980 film, and it's a movie that I had the opportunity to watch. It features the late great Christopher Reeve and I believe Jane Seymour. So 1980 film. So this was at the peak of Christopher Reeve's career, and this movie has come up in conversation for quite some time. I listen to a lot of talk radio, specifically Coast to Coast AM um, here in California, and Coast to Coast. They they've been on for decades, and they were one of the front runner shows for the paranormal. We'll put it that way. The paranormal and all things unusual. So it's a late night talk show, but most of the topics are of the unconventional, non-mainstream genre. So all things unusual, all things paranormal, all things conspiracy, and etc. But the subject of that conversation has come up for quite some time. I'm a science buff. I enjoy science. Albert Einstein, which is on the wall here, I would have to move my camera to show you, but he is one of my inspirations. I love all things science. Albert Einstein, Sir Isaac Newton, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I'm just intrigued with physics and science. And the topic of this show is I'm going to switch over to my cover screen. Let's get that going. Is a discussion, a very brief discussion on the scientific elements or theoretical elements of the movie Somewhere in Time. Now, Somewhere in Time is a love story. It, in my opinion, and the Swanny T's opinion, Somewhere in Time falls within the same category as a Titanic, as a Notebook, as a all these wonderful love stories from over the years, from the 60s and 70s. It's a beautiful love story. So if you have not seen the movie Somewhere in Time, trust me, if you see this movie, it will bring you to tears at the very end. So it's a love story, and it's about just a very brief synopsis of the movie. Spoiler alert: the movie itself is about a playwright. He works an artist, Christopher Reeve. He's an artist. He works in the playwright field, theoretical, not theoretical, but theater genre. And one day, an elderly lady walks in and gives him a pocket watch, and he's confused. And for some reason, she delivers him this pocket watch, and he's mesmerized, he's puzzled, and he is thinking about this person. And for some reason, he's drawn to conduct a bit of an investigation on who this person is. So he takes a road trip and ends up at this hotel, finds a picture of her. I'm going to switch over here. Again, this is all fair use content. Let's get that going. Like, there you go. So this is a snapshot that I took earlier. Jane Seymour is off to my right. This is Christopher Reeve, of course, and he runs into a picture of this person. Now, this is the younger version of the person that gave him the pocket watch, but he's somehow drawn to her. And so he's at the hotel right now. He sees a picture of her because this hotel was on one of her establishments where she, kind of lived or at this hotel, and he's mesmerized by seeing a picture of her. So at some point, at some point, miraculous. I'm not going to say miraculous, but for some reason, he's drawn to his his college. He attended the college probably 8 years prior to seeing her, 5 to 8 years prior to seeing this. So let me get the story straight. So 8 years before him seeing this picture here, she gives him the watch. I believe this is for 5 to 8 years. I'm not sure. And within that time frame, he's mesmerized about to find this person. So basically, we go from 1972 and we jump all the way to 1980. So she gives him the pocket watch in 1972. Several years later, which is I believe 1980, is when he does this investigatory process of locating her. So he goes back to his college professor, and his college professor gives him a story of how he was able, for a very brief second, to hypnotize himself. Now, we're talking about a love story, but I'm going to transition here to a little bit of science, a little bit of pseudoscience. But he talks to his professor, and his professor gives him a story in which he is able to tell Christopher Reeve, of course, of a scenario in which he was able to mentally self hypnotize himself, and by strong focusing on a certain individual or in place. The place, the individual, the place, including the clothing and all the environment around him. He has to put himself in era, that era in time, for locating this specific person. So he gives them a little bit of guidance on how to go about developing a plan to self hypnotize himself to find this woman that he's attracted to, in love with, his destiny per se. So Christopher Reeve, what he does is he goes. I'm going to switch it to another screenshot here. He goes to a local establishment. I believe it's the actual hotel itself. Checks into the hotel. He goes out and buys some period clothes from 1912. Now, the lady, the Jane Seymour character, the person that he's in love with, goes all the way back to 1912. So he has to go out and find period clothes. As you can see, he's in period clothes. He's got the derby hat and the whole nine. And he has to strong focus. He has to convince himself by repeating, I'm going back to 1912. I'm going back to 1912. I'm going back to 1912. I am going to find this person. I am there. Everything around me is of that time. And he goes into this dream state for a split second, and he wakes up. Now, initially, the movie doesn't really show you a whole lot, but he does this repetitively over a series of probably days or weeks. But eventually, he's able to find evidence that he did, in fact, through a dream state of sorts, travel back in time by reviewing a log in present day that he was actually there. So, jumping forward in this movie, he does it for the last time, and he's able to go back in time. The key word is in time to meet the woman that he loves. So that's just a very brief synopsis of the movie. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit. What's actually happening here? So through science, research, and just theory, general theory, my belief is what has happened is Christopher Reeve has put himself, or this character, I forget the character's main name, but we'll just call him Christopher Reeve for this to show him respect. What he did was, in my opinion, he astrally projected himself. When I was a kid growing up, there was a lot of talk about uh, quote unquote soul traveling, astral projection. Astral projection. I've come across a few people in my life who claim to have done so. And astral projection, though it is not mentioned in the movie, it says self hypnosis. Actually, what has happened is he's actually projected his consciousness or spirit outside of his body, and he's able to leave his body and meet with her. Now, again, all this is theoretical. All this is um, there's really no foundation to any of this. But let's shift gears one more time and talk about physics. Let's talk about physics. Let's talk about physics as we know it today. We know that we live in a three-dimensional world. Um, Three-dimensional mean all of us we live in a three-dimensional world. We can walk left, we can walk right, we can jump up, we can go down. That's our three dimension. But there's one other dimension that we are unable to really tap into, and that is time. That's time. Now, when we talk about time, we talk about um, the past, present, and future. The movie Interstellar, if you've never seen it before, I'm sorry I don't have a clip for that right now. I should have had that queued up for you. The movie Interstellar, which was produced by Christopher Nolan in 2014, actually touches on the scientific basis of the fourth dimension, which is time. And in that movie, if you get the audience, if you haven't seen the movie, it's a beautiful movie. It's a spectacular movie. It's a science movie in which a crew goes out into space. They're looking for answers to save humanity. But what happens is they go to an area where there's a black hole. There's a black hole in space. Now, I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but let's talk science a little bit. There are only two things that influence time. That's light and gravity. Okay? So the slower time is for you. It happens every day um, with how we're able to determine how light travels in the universe. But most uh, importantly, the other factor that influences time is gravity. And gravity is the distance between a center of a situation, a center of a well, gravity is all around us. Okay, and gravity is what keeps the planets in orbit. Gravity is what keeps the planet spinning. Gravity is what kind of keeps things in order. Um, so the gravitational pull of the moon and how it rotates around Earth, how Earth gravitates around the sun, how the solar system moves around the galaxy, etc. It's all governed by gravity. So you have light, which is 186,000 miles per second. Nothing of mass can exceed 186,000 miles per second, which is light speed, and we have gravity. Now, let's talk about, take light, because we can't do anything with light, and push that off to the side. Let's talk gravity. The gravity of a black, okay, so we're going back to Interstellar. And if you are able, in our lifetime, hopefully not, because black holes are bad news, but black holes are, in that sense, anomalies that are in the universe that basically influence space time. They're basically holes in space in which a star has imploded on itself and punched a hole into the fabric of space. That's basically what a black hole is. It's a star like our sun, but other stars, there are millions and billions and trillions of stars throughout the universe that have basically burned out. But a star weighs tons and millions of tons. The mass of a sun doesn't just go away. If a star implodes in on itself, the weight, the mass of that star is still there, and it's so big it punches a hole into the fabric of space, and that is how a black hole is created. So, a black hole the black hole itself has a gravitational pull that is so strong that even light can escape. So when we say gravitational pull at the event horizon, the singularity of a black hole, time stops. The closer you get to a black hole, the more time slows down. So that's why if you watch the movie Interstellar, there was a scene in the movie where they visit a planet that is in orbit around a black hole called Gigantua, and 1 hour on that planet is 7 years back on Earth. 1 hour equates to 7 years on Earth. That is how much time slows down. And this planet is actually orbiting the black hole. It hasn't fallen into the singularity, which is the point of no return with the black hole. But for the movie's sake, and to explain to you what I mean, to get back on point with this movie, Somewhere in Time, the main character falls into a black hole and ends up in an area called a tesseract. The tesseract. The tesseract is an area of a fourth dimensional object. Now, what is the fourth dimension, and what is the tesseract? Just imagine a three-dimensional cube and a cube inside of that cube. It's called a tesseract. And it will take me hours to even try to explain that. But what happens is he falls into this mechanism that's called the Swancentric, and he's able to look at past, present, and future. It's like a file cabinet of time, but he is outside of time. He's actually outside, so he can access any moment in time that we experience, but he is outside of time. We're three dimensions, he's fourth dimension. In the fourth dimension, time stops. There is no time. You can access these different parts of time. So that's Interstellar, but let's go back to Somewhere in Time. In Somewhere in Time, my theory, and how this movie is such a brilliant movie for everyone to see, is when you project your consciousness, when you astrally project yourself, you're no longer in the three-dimensional realm. You're in the fourth dimension. So that's why I'm able to bring all this back home. Christopher Reeve character in this movie astrally projected his soul, his consciousness or spirit, however you want to call it, into a higher dimension, which is the fourth dimension. And he was able to go back to that moment in time, 1912, to meet the woman of his dreams. That is why this is such a wonderful movie. That is why this movie and science really ties together. It makes a little bit of sense, but it's still theoretical. And but it's a beautiful movie. And being a science person myself, I love science. Again, I love physics. The idea that at a black hole, or if I was able to ever travel at light speed, that time would literally stop. And at that threshold, that time stops, I could probably access time like a Rolodex to go back in moments in time to see. It's possible. It's scientifically possible. So, with that being said, I know that this is my one of my first shows I've done by myself, but it's a show, it's a topic that I'm passionate about. Um, Unfortunately, I wish Swany was able to join me on the show. I love her very much, but she had the night off. And if there are any questions that you have, or any rebuttals, or any my theory of how well I believe at some point as humans we will be able to access the fourth dimension at some point. But I do believe that in a dream state, when we dream and we have these events, we'll call it deja vu. Deja vu. I know that many of us have experienced that. I believe deja vu is a moment in time that we maybe tapped into the fourth dimension, while we're in a sleep state. So that's very well possible, though it is not proven. That's a very strong possibility. So maybe we have, as humans, tapped into that fourth dimension. We'll find out, but I enjoy it. I believe that in my soul that I've met money before in a previous life. I dream every night. Some are good, some are bad, but I dream. And maybe I am tapping into other dimensions. Maybe you are. But this is food for thought. With that being said, I want to close this out and say, thank you for supporting us, and continue to, if you like the content, and this is a very impromptu show. If you like it, give a thumbs up, give a shout out, and Swanny will be on the next show, and we'll have some more creative content for you. Again, this is an impromptu show. This is Mike B, and till next time.